Juan. My name is Tim Russell, Vice President, Community Engagement for WTTW and WFMT. On behalf of Instituto del Progreso Latino, welcome to Firsthand Living in Poverty, Encouragement for a Better Tomorrow. Today's event is part of the Firsthand Living in Poverty series. WTTW is committed to producing and presenting trusted, best-in-class content fueled by distinctly Chicago sensibility. We have served as Chicago's window to the world, and our purpose is to enrich lives, engage communities, and inspire exploration. In Firsthand Living in Poverty, WTTW presents a documentary series, reported text stories, experts talks, and community discussions with a supporting discussion guide, all of which can be found on WTTW.com/firsthand. Today's conversation will be moderated by my good friend of more than 20 years, Juan Salgado, Chancellor, City Colleges of Chicago. Chancellor Salgado has focused his entire career on improving education and economic opportunities for residents in low-income communities. Chancellor Salgado delivered a firsthand expert talk in which he explored an often overlooked pathway out of poverty, community colleges, and their unique position to meet people where they are. He explained how these under-resourced institutions help students capitalize on their talents. Community engagement for Firsthand Living in Poverty is made possible with leadership support from the Caris Foundation, Inc. Additional support for Firsthand Living in Poverty community engagement is provided by Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Illinois. A special thanks to our supporters. Lead support for Firsthand Living in Poverty is provided by the Granger Foundation and Becky and Lester Knight, the Knight Family Foundation. Major support is also provided by Jim and Kay Mabey, Randy and Carrie McMillan, Butler Family Foundation, Denny and Sandy Cummings, the Harry and Jeanette Weinberg Foundation, Lou Collins, Edwardson Family Foundation, Mark and Jean Malnati Family Foundation, Kristen Carlson Bogan and Sean Bogan, and the Duncan family. After the video, please welcome Juan Salgado, Chancellor, City College of Chicago. Please roll the video.
I need money to move out. I need money for a car. I need money to get my license. But I mean, if I look at it all like that, I get overwhelmed.
I couldn't even buy my kids nothing for Christmas because I had to choose between making that car payment or getting them something.
It's like you worrying and you going through day-to-day life with so much that you face with.
I feel like I'm constantly playing catch up all the time. I'll get so far and then something else will get thrown at me.
I don't want my kids to feel like they stuck in a trap. You know, I want them to go see the world.
I want to get out of the neighborhood. I want to get my family out of the neighborhood.
Sometimes when you're a mother, you just have to keep pushing no matter what.
I love my daughter. I know she loves me. I want a better life for her.
I look to God to take care of me and my family. I know some way, somehow, that He'll make a way for me to make ends meet.
I took the opportunity that was given and built something a little better out of it.
I try to remain optimistic, and somebody gonna say, I'll give you a chance.
You failed. It's okay. Get back up. It's not in the falling. It's in the getting back up that makes you who you are.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. And thank you, Tim Russell and WTTW for your leadership in creating this Firsthand Living in Poverty focus, and to all of the sponsors, and especially to all of our participants that have joined us here today, and the panelists that have joined with us to share of their experiences and their stories. Can the panelists, please put on your cameras at this moment? I am so delighted to facilitate this session where we are really going to be able to talk about and encourage a better tomorrow, right? And I couldn't think of spending this hour talking about a better tomorrow with any better people than I'm having the opportunity to share in with today. But also our audience. Our audience is multi-generational. It's students, it's parents, it's young professionals, It's the employer community and the civic community. It's Chicago and its richness. And so I'm delighted to be part of this today because of the audience. Want to start by introducing very briefly just our panelists for today. I want to start with Melissa. Melissa Fonseca has so courageously shared her story with us and all of Chicago. It's brought her powerful message, her multi-generational message, and her, we say Melissa's on the move for her children, and for her family and for her community. And for that, we're deeply grateful. Also joining us here today is Karina Ayala-Bermejo, the president and CEO of Instituto del Progreso Latino, an amazing leader of an impactful organization in Chicago. And I'm so delighted to be here with her today. And we also have Reina Magana-Goodman, a successful leader in the banking industry, a longtime board member with Instituto del Progreso Latino, and its current chair of the board. Congratulations, and thank you for your service. And Jesus Gonzalez, a successful leader in the insurance and IT fields, and a board member with Instituto as well. And so I want to ask you all for a moment, because we see you today, right? And in my case, you see me with gray hair, but I didn't always have gray hair, okay? I want to go back, take us back in time. Karina, Reina, Jesus, Melissa, what was life for you growing up in Chicago? Help describe that for us. And I don't know, Karina, could you get us started?
I'd love to. Chancellor Salgado, thank you so much for that intro. Wow, going back memory lane, so many different emotions. I will take you back to Salinas, California. My parents were margarine fine workers. I was born at Totonilco, Jalisco. I remember the dress that my parents put me in with the beautiful flowers up here, and vaguely remember the fields of California. What I remember and what I'll never forget is how hard my parents worked, how hard they worked to save every single penny with a dream to go to the steel mills in South Chicago. Like, I remember very vividly that my father would talk about the steel mill, right? And that we were going to get to Chicago some way, somehow. So life for us during that journey, was pretty difficult. Like, I remember some of the poverty. I remember the discussions and the crying for my father and mother. Like, what are we going to do? Right? But like, where there's a will, there's a way. And I just remember the steadfast, laser focused, this is temporary. This poverty thing that we have is temporary. And I remember life growing up for me got better because we never felt poor. There was richness of experience. There was never a day that we didn't strive for the goal of getting to where we were going. And when we arrived to Chicago, we had nowhere to go. We were migrants going from place to place out of the generosity of people's homes. And for me and for many, Our Lady of Guadalupe was a home that welcomed us in South Chicago when we finally arrived, and really allowed the trajectory of our lives to change when my father landed that job at the steel mill, right? That dream of never giving up, the dream of following those kinds of examples. Like, how could we not put education first? How could we not focus so hard to make sure that we put in everything that we can to make sure that all of those sacrifices that we still remember did not go in vain? So how was life for me? It was beautiful, because it was a lesson that no problem can be, that every problem has a solution. Let's do it in the positive, that where there's a will, there's a way, and that you just have to walk through those challenges very bravely and courageously. For me, it was testing of our full capacities and being really united as a family, like having real hard discussions as kids, right? We don't have this, but you know, we have this, we have each other, we have health, we have dreams, and it's going to get better. And that really deep hope. So I remember a journey filled with endless possibilities, right, of what was coming. And they eventually came, right? My parents had a dream that all 6 of us would earn our títulos, our titles, that we would focus on education. And was no shortage of hard work, was no shortage of sacrifices. But those lessons were so critically important because life can get hard. You must be resilient. So I'll go a little bit more into my youth, but I would love to hear some of the other panelists and what it was like for you and what was your earliest memory, right, Juan? Sending it back to you.
Well, anybody want to jump? Reina, you want to jump in?
Absolutely. So thank you, Chancellor Salgado. Thank you, Karina, for getting us started. And very similar to yours, I do have to say, the feeling of poverty, somehow my parents figured out a way that we didn't feel poor. So we always had food, whether it was just rice and beans, which is still my favorite, but that's a modest means, but there was always food on the table. But I'll take you back to 1976. I was 7 years old, and you know, memories of my father were always vague because he was always in the United States, and he had 5 children in Mexico with my mom. But he would go back and visit every chance he could, bring money, bring us clothes and toys. So in Mexico, in Jalisco, similar to you, I lived in a picturesque little town, cobblestone streets, free range child, able to just roam, you know, and be free. I thought it was beautiful. My life, I thought, was beautiful. And one day in 1976, in the middle of winter, after a very hard struggle, the story of coming to America is probably a story on its own of what my family went through to get here. So that's a whole different topic, but wake up, 1976, middle of winter, I believe it was November. And we are in a building in Little Village, across the street from Spry Grammar School, Marshall Boulevard, 4th floor, 1-bedroom apartment, 5 kids, 2 parents, and my uncles. And I was shocked. I honestly thought it was a dream. Like, this can't be it. This, you know, as a child, you know, the experience itself was exciting because all I kept hearing was, you're going to El Norte. That's what you hear a lot in Mexico. Like, people who go to El Norte, they made a big deal about it. It's a dream. It's something that everybody, you know, aspires to do for a better life. We're now in El Norte. The weather was terrible. It was, you know, for me as a child reflecting to it, and I think when Juan and I talked briefly before this call, it brought back emotions because I think I suppressed some of those memories. And that struggle in itself as a child with a completely life change was hard. It was really, really hard. But similar to Karina, my parents found a way. They were always working. Mom and dad were always working. And that's probably the best example that they could set for us because we watched, right? You know, not having somebody, the eldest children took care of us, the youngest ones. But ultimately the focus was education. We had to go to school. We had to focus. We kind of helped each other out. It wasn't necessarily always my parents, but the older brothers and sisters were making sure the homework was getting done. We didn't speak English. And back then, Spry High School grammar school didn't quite have a vocational program. So talk about learning the language immediately, dealing with being teased, you know, for not understanding and not picking up right away. But ultimately, the message we were getting was, we have to go to school. In Mexico, we kind of didn't always go to school. But here, everybody had to go to school. It's a rule, and we have to focus. So, you know, very similar, that message was always there. And just learning that we had that chance. And from there on, we continue just focusing on our education. And honestly, my brothers and sisters, we kind of supported each other while my parents went to work every day. We didn't have a sitter. We didn't have a daycare. And you're talking, the eldest were 12 and 10. So my 10-year-old sister was cooking for the kids as soon as she got home from school. We didn't have anybody watching the youngest, the 5-year-old. So this is just something we kind of did on our own, and we just comforted each other and protected each other. So that was the beginning of my journey in Chicago. We dealt through a lot of adversity, as my brother, being a teenager, immediately was approached by gangs. And that was very difficult for us. We didn't really know what was going on. We didn't understand gangs. We didn't know what that was. But that was already a sign for my father to take action and immediately respond to that and try to make a change for us, and pulled us out of that situation we were in to continue to try to focus us into a better life. Doesn't mean we moved to a house or anything like that. We just went to another apartment in a different area to try to shelter us and protect us from what we were being exposed to very early on. So that's the beginning of my childhood, and I'll wait and love to hear the rest of the stories.
So we've from South Chicago to Little Village. Jesus, can you tell me a little bit about your experience in Chicago?
So I'm going to bring everybody back as well. If you can imagine me with some hair on my head. My journey as well started in South Chicago through third grade. I am the oldest of five. My father is a retired union carpenter. My mom worked on and off in factories, and at some point became a homemaker. Because again, it's a team approach, and with 5 kids at home, that was the preferred route. And so the kids needed attention. As the oldest of 5, I can share some of the stories that Reina mentioned with regards to responsibilities. You grow up a little bit faster. So I'll take you back to the early 1980s. Early on in the 1980s, I saw my dad and my mom. My dad would get up 4:30 in the morning, put his boots on, getting ready for work. And I saw my mom making my dad's lunch. And so that impression kind of has been with me ever since, the team concept. Everybody pitches in. And so early 1980s, it resonates with me because that's the first time my father purchased a home. And he purchased a home in back of the yards. So I've had the benefit of growing up in back of the yards through about high school. And I got to tell you, in terms of, our upbringing, similar to Reina and Karina, growing up, when you think of the term poverty, you try to define it, right? If it's economical, up until a certain age, I didn't know that we were poor, because again, we were always fed, we always had clean clothes, and education top of mind. It wasn't until the later years that you see that the world is bigger than back of the yards, and you start going outside that neighborhood and you realize, wow, there's a completely different world out there. But again, I think similar to the comments that Reina and Karina made mention, I think education was always top of mind. Why? Because my parents understood that it was an equalizer at the end of the day. 2, I think, I'm a strong proponent of, I think, Juan, you've mentioned this before, the term ganas, right? Hard work, and so forth. I'll take it one step further. I think Angela Duckworth has a TED Talk that talks about grit, and it's the passion and perseverance for long-term goals. And my parents set long-term goals early on for all 5 of us. And so, we can certainly speak more to those details on our trajectory to where we're currently at. But that was the underlying basis. And similar to their stories, it's an ecosystem. It takes a village to raise kids, especially in the neighborhood. So we can certainly talk about that as well.
Thank you, Jesus. And you think about ganas and grit. You think about Melissa and her story, and also, just sort of you're there as the person that's helping your children, but also your relationship with your mom, that was such a powerful part of your story. Can you just share a little bit more about what it was like for you as a child in Humboldt Park? Now we're going to Humboldt Park, okay, folks?
Yes. Growing up in Humboldt Park is something that I only know. I'm actually still currently in Humboldt Park as of now. But I do remember growing up where my father got disabled at a young age. So he was always the stay-at-home parent. He was the one who did the bathing and the cleaning and the cooking and sending us to school and stuff. And I'm the youngest of 6. And I also have a brother who has autism. So my father or my mother had, you know, like if we had events or we had something going on where there was like a play at school or something, only one parent could attend because at that moment they didn't have like, you know, care for kids who had autism. So they didn't, my parents didn't know like how to treat them. My brother didn't know how to act. So they would have to sit it out. I remember that. But I don't remember living in poverty. Like I didn't even know that even existed when I was smaller because I felt like we had everything. We didn't need anything. It wasn't until I think I was in elementary school. My mother never sent us to any of our home schools. We never went in none of the schools, high schools in our area. We always went away on buses. And I remember going to a Caucasian friend's house. And I remember them just leaving doors unlocked and leaving toys outside. And I'm like, wait a minute, nobody's gonna take it? Because all our stuff we had to bring in with us, or, you know, you couldn't leave a bike sitting outside because somebody would take it. I grew up in a neighborhood where they sold drugs on every corner, or it was, you know, always some kind of, you know, shootings or something going on. I didn't realize that's not what the world was doing until I became one of those victims of being shot in a drive-by at the age of 12. And I know my parents always sheltered us. Like, we were never even allowed outside of the gate, but still sitting on the front porch with my father, I was still shot. So my parents did the best that they could to protect us how they could. And it still will find you no matter where you are. And I know my parents didn't have the means or didn't have the funds to, oh, we got to pick up and move from here because that happened. We continued to have to stay where we were because my parents couldn't afford to move us to another apartment or to a home because we were living in subsidized housing. So we didn't have that option. I know my mother did end up going back to school when I think I was in high school, and she was probably in her mid-30s, and she ended up getting her master's. And education was something that they always wanted for us, but none of us actually went beyond high school. And I didn't understand it at that moment until we had the WTTW, where she explained that it was important to her for us to further our education. I wish that I had, but I do want to thank Juan because he did reach out to me, and I did have somebody reach out to me from Grover Wright, the dean, and I will be going on Monday to try to see if I can further my education. So thank you, everybody.
That's so great to hear. But what I want to do right now is, first of all, I want to invite the audience to send any questions that you might have to the chat so that we can incorporate them in the dialogue. But Melissa, why don't we go to a clip of the story in the documentary series so we could really understand why we are saying this is about Melissa on the move, okay? Watch Melissa on the move for a minute here.
Every day is just about the same thing. Every day I get the same routine. You get up, you go to work, come home, you cook dinner, and go to bed and do the same thing. I'm working at Walgreens. I've been working at Walgreens for about 17 years now. I started off as a cashier, and now I'm a photo specialist there. When I first started at Walgreens, I was making $7.20 an hour. We got a raise like once a year. It could have been somewhere around a quarter to maybe 50 cents was the most.
How you doing today?
I am good. How you doing today?
Trying to say cool. It's so hot outside.
It is. It's very hot out there. I am waiting.
Then after that, they raised the minimum wage up. It went up to like $13. After being there for over 10 years, I wasn't even at $13. So it was like a slap in all our face to know that like you've been there all these years and you're still making the same thing as people who's just getting hired. It was tough. I'm not able to live off of minimum wage. I had times where I can literally get paid that morning, and by that afternoon, my whole check was gone. I would never want my kids to see the worries that I have. I'm not gonna have gas for the next couple days. I'm gonna have to make this gas that I do have there and stretch. I couldn't take my kids to McDonald's if they asked for it. I couldn't give them money to go to the book fair at school because I didn't have it. Because it was either going towards rent or a certain bill. I barely get by.
Oh, you want some of what? Oh, we don't need a shopping cart. Mommy's just gonna get a few things. Ooh, grab that one.
I would like to see a change of employment.
I got it.
But what else could I be doing with the education I have?
I need 2 more. There we go.
You can't get hired with just a high school diploma. I don't feel like I'm smart enough to go to school, but I feel like if I wanted something better than a minimum wage job, I have to get a higher education.
Oh, okay. What you gonna get? You gonna get candy or you want chips?
And it's like, how can you get it?
You gonna get one, Mike?
I get 2.
You can't try to work on yourself and also have a job and be a parent too. So it's like something's gonna have to be pushed to the side.
Thank you. Who's gonna help with the bag? Come on, let's go.
Melissa, you're at work right now, and you're at work, and you know, you don't have a minute to spare. Obviously, every time I've talked to you, you're literally on the move, doing something while you're doing 2 other things at the same time. And you know, and this may be a little hard, given that your employer is, been your employer for 17 years, and they're supporting you right now. But I do want to ask you, what would you want to say to your employer or any other employer when they're deciding how much to pay their employees? What kind of benefits to give? Time off for important things like family. What would you want to say to?
Well, I want them to understand that even though we are employed by them, we also do have families, so we also do have needs. So I would try to see if they can be understanding to like holidays or about fair pay. I mean, I believe that they believe that it's fair pay, but as many years that we gave you guys, like, I don't know why we don't get like a raise that's beyond that for being here for so many years. Obviously, we're loyal to them, so I would expect, for us that, at least be past people who just started a month ago, not to be at the same pay rate as people who started. And some of us been here longer than at least 5 years. So I would say that some employers need to be more for their employees and not only for the customers.
Thank you. And, when you were sort of speaking about your desire, to get an education because you understand, the earnings potential that could mean, and also, the opportunity to do something you might love to do, right, or want to do, but you described that big challenge of where am I going to find the time, right, and what am I going to sacrifice, right, as a result of this, and do you believe right now that you can carve out the time?
I probably don't believe it, but I'm one of those who believe that if you set your mind to it, or if it happens for a reason. So I feel like what my mom used to always say, you just gotta roll with the punches. Whatever life hands at you, you just gotta make it work. So I don't know like how would it balance out my week or how would it balance out my day, but I know that if I push myself, I can do it. If I had to set something to the side, I'm just gonna have to do that to further something that I know that I want. And I know that it's probably something I should have done before. So I'm willing to take the change or take the chance.
Melissa's at a breakthrough moment in life, without question. right? And I want to ask you, Karina, Reina, Jesus, reflect on a breakthrough moment, right, in your lives, right? And what did you take from it? What could you share from it for Melissa, but other people that are out here listening?
Sure.
Thank you,
jump
Juan.
in.
Thank you, Melissa.
Go ahead,
Karina.
Reina. You sure? Okay.
No, please go.
I was eager to jump in only because listening to Melissa's story, I wanted to share a little bit, as brief as I possibly can, of my transition, right? Went to high school, not the best high school out there. However, did the best I could to graduate in the top 4, had a scholarship but it really didn't cover much other than junior college. And that didn't even cover my first year. So, but I was determined. I was like, how can I do this? I got to find a way to do this. I was working in retail to be able, at the age of 17, I graduated when I was 17, working retail was really to save money to pay for college. And I knew regular university was out of my range. So I was going to daily college and working as hard as I possibly can. And then somebody tapped me in the shoulder and said, and this is what I mean about finding resources and asking questions. Did you know that in banking, they actually pay for your tuition if you work full-time? Had no idea. I'm thinking, I work retail, I do a register, I'm really good at customer service. I didn't even realize I was good in sales at the time. Found that out when I started my career in banking. But I figured, what do I have to lose? I went and bought a suit and prepared for the interview. I thought the best I possibly can. By the time I did this transition, I was actually 19 years old. Went and interviewed for a bank at that time for a teller position. Back then, I guess it was paying well for, 1990. And I was hired on the spot and I couldn't believe it. Somebody like me is going to work in a bank. I didn't know I could do that. And long story short, within a year, I was promoted to banker. One of my managers, and I still stay in touch with her now, 31 years later, Barb Wagner, tapped me on the shoulder again. And the message I'm trying to send here is we don't always have somebody who taps us in the shoulder, but it really has to do with how we perform and how we display ourselves with any employer. Doesn't matter if it's McDonald's, Walgreens, or here at the bank. I was just so excited to have this job. So I was doing the best I can. And now they're paying for my tuition. So I felt like I owed them something, right? Like I got to give back because they're paying me to work here. Plus they're helping me pay for my tuition. And she encouraged me to do more. She's like, you could do more than being a teller. I'm like, really? Like what? You should be a banker. I was 21, 22 when I got my first set of insurance licenses. And I started learning more about banking in the banking industry. By the time, actually I got married, had my daughter, 1995, I was fully securities licensed. By then I'm already an assistant manager and it just keeps going from there. The sky's the limit. And really the message here is, somebody who saw something in me that I didn't see, but that kept encouraging me to move forward. And after we transitioned, my mentor left to another bank, I left to another bank. I kept remembering that hand on my shoulder saying, you could do more, you could do more, you could do a lot more. And from there to then, to be running a $1 billion region with over 100 employees, the responsibility that's under me is huge. But everything I did prior to that, from managing smaller teams and being involved in all different industries of banking, not just retail management, from securities licenses to my mortgage experience, involved with Diversity Council, and even within my career now, I'm consistently raising my hand. What is next? What can I do next? So college, whether you start with junior college, I eventually finished my degree at DePaul University, which was my dream because that's the school my daughter graduated from as well. And I'm not done. So, my goal, like you, Melissa, you're considering going to school. I want to go get my master's, right? So that's still You know, and my daughter looks at me at your age, absolutely. I don't care how old I am. It's like, I'm going to keep every, you know, milestone that I have set for myself, I'm going to accomplish. So that was my trajectory there with education, and going from a teller position to vice president and running a $1 billion+ region for Fifth Third Bank. So I'm really proud of what I've done, and I'm nowhere near done. I know that. So I have a few more stepping stones that I want to accomplish. But looking back at that 7-year-old, not understanding a word of English, scared to death, and I only had to walk across the street to go to grammar school, and what we're actually able to do. And then just thinking back of that mentor, that manager who said, Reina, you could do more. How about you try this? And that fear never went away. Like, I did it because she told me I could, but I always had that little bit of doubt. But every time I tried it and realized that it was possible, I wanted to do more. I said, if I could do that, what else can I do?
Karina, you were going to share too. Thank you, Reina.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I want to start with 2 reflections. Reina, you know, my mother always told me, dime con quién estás y te diré quién eres, right? Tell me who you're with and I'll tell you who you are. I am so fortunate to be surrounded with people like you, like Jesus, like those that really understand that education can really change everything. And Melissa, I want to tell you, you are smart enough. You just haven't had that opportunity tap, but I think I saw it happen today. And I am convinced without a doubt that you are going to come back and share your story of how you did it, right? Just like WTTW is the window to the world, I hope that we are mirrors and reflections to where you can be, because we know exactly where you're at. So a changing point for me, taking you back to about 87. So my father landed that job at the steel mill. It wasn't easy. He bought our first home in South Chicago. We were so proud. All the girls went to girls' schools and all the boys went to the seminary. And that every penny was spent on our education. And that was something our father was very proud of, up until the day where the steel mill industry collapsed almost overnight. I will never forget that day. I was a junior at Seton Academy, and my father said that we weren't going to be able to continue that payment. And it hits you like a freight truck, right? You're like, what are we going to do? And I remember and we can't make the mortgage, and we can't do this. And it was like a pity party for maybe like 30 minutes. Because then my father was like, okay, this is what we're going to do. Right. So out of crisis comes opportunity. You've heard that. My father put up a fruit stand. We started a tuck pointing business. We were up on roofs. Like, we made it happen. My brother and I worked at the Museum of Science and Industry. We would work, give the check over. I remember a really difficult conversation I had with the principal at Seton Academy. And, you know, I thank her for really understanding the value of this conversation. I said, we can no longer make payments, but I'm going to make a commitment that my leadership and investment in the school will be worth more. Like, that was my first real negotiation, my advocacy for myself. And she looked at me and she looked at my bill and she ripped it up and said, you are an investment to our school. You won't ever have to worry about tuition. Like, it could have gone so wrong, but you have to be courageous to be your best advocate, to be your best negotiator. And I remember things slowly, they were still challenging. We all worked very hard and we stayed in the house. It was the house we grew up with, and we graduated. And then it was, now what, right? Having gone through those really awesome lessons about taking crisis and turning them opportunity, I think that was the best preparation for life that our parents ever gave us, right? Like, there's going to be times you fall, just like you heard in the series. It's how you get up and how you take advantage of the next steps, because it's going to get tough, but you got to keep up, right? So that's one reflection. And Jesus, I'm sure you have many others, but pass it over to you.
Well, thank you, Karina. So Melissa, you know, similar situations to Reina and Karina, but one thing as you were talking, you're starting retail. I had a similar situation in high school. I think I'll describe two very short moments, but they were very impactful. The first was just believing in myself. And that's something that sometimes, coming out of the neighborhood, we lack that confidence. And it's finding someone within our, ecosystem. And for me, it was the art teacher in 8th grade who said, Jesus, you have a good head on your shoulders. You have problem-solving skills. You need to, really work at it. And so what I'll tell you is the more people that you tell about your ambitions and your goals, there's people in life ready to help you. And so you have it here. Juan, has been a strong advocate within the community for a number of decades already. So that's key number one. So as we fast forward, the second moment is, again, when you're the oldest, you're always the example, whether it's, hey, he did great, he's doing great, he's an A student, honor roll, etc. Hey, he's doing great in athletics, fantastic. Oh, but you know what? The shortcomings are always brought to the forefront as well. And so, hey, don't do what he did when it comes to X or, so forth and so on. My point is, fast forward, I'm now a high school senior, and education, again, top of mind. So we're doing everything right, but now it's senior year, and now, we're going to college. Well, we've pretty much been very open and understand that, hey, listen, education is top of mind, but we were never really asked, what do you want to do when you grow up? What is it that interests you? And so for me, that was a moment because, I was on the baseball team, and in order for me to play baseball, I needed recommendations. So I went to my baseball coach, and the baseball coach says, you're going to college? And that was a moment for me because he didn't think that, I was smart enough at the time. And so it was a pleasant surprise for him. And so again, back to everyone's story is just, hard work puts you where the good luck will find you. And, one thing about the college experience, one of the things I realized early on was, a certificate is not going to define the value of who I am and what I'm capable of. But it does provide employers and everyone else, kind of some peace of mind stating that, hey, you're able to, whether it's community college or a four-year institution or what have you, it provides them certification that you are qualified. Again, many of my senior friends in high school, they went on to be successful, carpenters in the trades, or they took they went the military route. There's other avenues and, courses that you can take as well. My point is that if you provide people an understanding of what it is you want and what you're looking for, there's people along the way to help you with your journey.
Well, let me, I really appreciate you sharing that advice. I am gonna, before we go into Melissa's second video, want to ask one of the audience questions. And if just one of you all wants to pick this up, but, why, from your perspective, haven't wages kept up with the cost of living, with the cost of renting, with the cost of purchasing? And from your perspective, why is it so that we're here today?
That's the $1 million question, right? What can we, how are we going to change this issue of poverty? How are we going to eradicate poverty for generations to come? And it starts with a livable, sustainable wage. It starts with that equalization, not just through a job, but a career. So as we begin to think through, retail, for example, it could be a career. So let's pay it as if it were, right? Let's create opportunities so that it really is valuing the contributions that the workforce are providing to corporations. So the way Instituto approaches everything is very much, Melissa, how you were stating it. It is, you are not just an employee, you are more than that. You are a whole, beautiful human being that when you invest in you're investing in your family, you're lifting a community, you are strengthening an entire city and state. So when can we get our legislators and our elected officials to understand that that concept is when one person lives up to their fullest potential, it strengthens the entire city. So yes, I mean, it's a little bit of both, right? Minimum wage needs to increase so that it's a livable, sustainable wage, but we have to create more opportunities that are careers into livable, sustainable wages out of crisis and into thriving, right out of these survival jobs and into long-term careers. Because I know that when any individual is given that opportunity, they would say, I will get that training necessary to step into a career that's going to provide for my family. And it's a problem that we all have to solve. It isn't just a financial one. It's a commitment from corporations. It's a commitment from the community to ensure that we are creating tracks into careers.
I really appreciate how you beautifully said that, Karina, in terms of what we all have a responsibility to do at this moment in time. I do want to go to the second clip that we have of Melissa to sort of ground us in, the continued challenges that she faces.
I always wanted to have a little boutique for just nothing but women's clothes and focus on the ladies sometimes, because sometimes we don't think about ourselves. And I never actually put my all into it, and I've been thinking about it for I don't know how many years. So I was like, you know what, let me try to push myself and order a few things and see how this picks up. This is a large. I sell them on Facebook. I created a Facebook page. I sold about a good, I want to say, 20 outfits. Sometimes I would take pictures of myself in certain things, because if they see it on you, they'll probably feel like, okay, if it looks good on her, then it's gonna look good on me. I just want to focus on clothes, because clothes make me feel good. When I put on something nice, I feel pretty. After I had my kids, I lost confidence in myself. The times that I did feel the happiest or feel the prettiest is if I had something new. I felt comfort in clothes. I feel like a different person when I put them on. I get a lot of compliments. I love compliments. I'm coming down. Okay. Ooh, they got lights now. I'm praying that this is a ticket out of Walgreens shop, so I can just be like, I resign. Walk in. I resign. Little different. My mom loves the idea. She loves it, and she hopes that it takes off so that I can become a boutique owner.
Definitely want to try to get a website, but I mean, Facebook is good for now. Mm-hmm. But you also want to work on getting, like I said, your business structure, getting your federal tax ID. You're gonna have to charge them tax on the merchandise you sell them.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that's important. You are
It's just so beautiful to watch you and your mom together planning out your future as a team. That moment is precious to us all. It's a reminder of, what it takes too, from a family perspective. But I wanted to ask you about confidence. You talked about confidence. Where are you with your confidence today, Melissa?
It's still up and down. Being, like I said, a victim of gun violence, I kind of lost it because of that scar and stuff. So I didn't like the questions I used to get behind it, and stuff like that. So it had me shield myself, and then I had ended up getting PTSD. So I didn't like to go out, or I don't like to be around crowds, or every little thing about it. I just overthink everything. Me selling the clothing now, it has kind of raised it a little more, because now I'm able to wear my confidence with my clothes. So I feel like me having to advertise it or me trying to promote it does better. I only do this on the weekends because I work during the week. So I try to find a time, the only time I can do that is on the weekend.
And when you think about, what society, what the rest of us can do, to support you, right? What comes to mind?
I feel like what comes to mind is maybe, being a voice or somebody, like she says, taps you on the shoulder and able to give you resources or able to speak up if they know that this person is trying to further themselves or do something different. I didn't have that, so I don't know what it's like, but I feel like in my community, we had lack of resources. I think if we had the resources that we had, maybe half of us probably wouldn't still be in poverty or live in poverty. So I feel like if we can get the word out, it can help a lot of families. I know when this aired, I had so much outreach from people saying that they walked in my shoes, saying that they feel the same. So I feel like a change could come for all of us.
Yeah, well, we really appreciate you, sparking that change. And I want to, before we close, I want to ask each of you to, think about someone you'd want to speak to, right? And something you would want to say. It could be your parent, it could be a student out there, it could be our city leadership, it could be anybody. Think about who you want to share something with as it relates to how we're going to create a better tomorrow, right? And what you would want to say to them with, one closing statement that has to be less than a minute. Anyone?
So my message is for you, Melissa, and all of the Melissas out there. You are strong enough. And sometimes you might not get that tap on the shoulder, but you can tap on our shoulder and say, how did you do it? How can you help me? And what I hear is a beautiful entrepreneurial spirit that is just waiting to be fostered and loved. There are so many resources out there that can help. Instituto can help you. We want to be able to ensure that whether it's a retail pathway, getting you a national certification in customer service, and or getting you some entrepreneurship classes and partnering so that your business and your vision can come to life. And that's for all of those that are watching and really just, you keep coming back to that dream you've been dreaming about for many, many years. Tap on someone and make that dream a reality. And we're here to help you. You are not alone. You are smart enough. You absolutely are. And I hope you see yourself in us and believe that you can, because you can.
Melissa, I want to take a privilege before others to just share that Instituto de Progreso Latino, led by Karina, has an incredible amount of resources, okay? For you, for many of the people out there, to truly tap in a way that is sensitive to our culture as a people, right? And our families as well. Anyone else?
Juan, what my message is to everybody who is able to view this video presentation, that if you could find someone to tap on that shoulder. So if you've been privileged enough to either been tapped on and have moved on in your career, or have the means or the opportunity to help another young individual, a student, a parent, a single mom, a Melissa, to please find someone or a group, or whether it's just one person, to pay it forward. So if we could all do that, and my vision's always one student at a time, one child at a time. The difference that we make in the lives of the young and the youth and the single moms or young men struggling out there. If everybody who's watching this or has the opportunity to do so, if you can make it your mission to be able to tap someone on that shoulder, and whether you provide them guidance or just an opportunity, that's how we're going to make a difference.
Thank you. Jesus, why don't you go, and then we're going to let Melissa close this off.
Great. So Melissa, I'm gonna, again, thank you, Reina and Karina, for providing guidance here. So on the confidence side, my wife and I, Elva, are raising 3 energetic young women, and we want them to be confident. So one of the things that we always preach is family, education, and community. And again, I wanted to stress that. You have the resources at your disposal. On the other side, Reina, I think you had a great call out. There are many individuals that were raised in these neighborhoods, whether it's Humboldt Park, Back of the Arts, or South Chicago. And there's a number of success stories. What I would say is we need to overinvest in those communities. And it's happening already. If you look at Back of the Arts, you know, the Gonzalez family, they're 2 educators. They've gone back, they're teachers. Another individual, he's a police officer. He's gonna open up a yoga studio within Back of the Arts. So again, I think this is the platform to call out those professionals to come back to the neighborhoods and invest your time and sweat.
Melissa, you get to close this out.
I want to say thank you to everyone out here. All your stories were great. I want to say I did learn more today. I have said, I can't say that since January this had aired, I do feel like a dream has came true for me, which they always used to say, you know, don't give up on your dreams. And I want to tell whoever's watching or whoever thinks that they need help, like they say, ask, and maybe the resources will come. And if you don't ask, speak to somebody, some teacher, some leader, some employer. Maybe if you don't ask, you won't know. Like my mom used to say, a closed mouth don't get fed. And maybe that's where I went wrong on not speaking up on some of the things. And I'm glad that today that I have, and today my opportunities are coming true right now. And I'm like overwhelmed with all of this resource or all the support that I have been getting from everybody. I want to thank WTTW for this opportunity and everybody who has reached out to me and helped me and sent well wishes. And I'm really, really, really thankful.
Melissa, Jesus, Reina, Karina, thank you. Tim, I'm turning it over to you to close us out.
Thank you, Juan, and to all the panelists, Melissa, Jesus, Karina, Reina, thank you so much. You know, before we part ways, you know, I do want to say that James William Mabee, WTTW and WFMT leader and collaborator and longtime trustee and former board chair of WTTW, died at his home on Saturday, May 8th. You know, I could recite his bio, but I would like to share a personal story. My first day at WTTW, WFMT, Jim left me a voicemail message, welcoming me to the team. As I listened to his message, I was impressed and honored that he took time out of his busy schedule to welcome me. Come to find out, that was the type of man Jim was. I saved that voicemail, and every now and then I listen to it. It reminds me of his unwavering commitment to WTTW, to WFMT. Jim was a champion of our community engagement work, and he, along with his wife, Kay, would support and attend our various events. In fact, Jim and his wife were one of the early funders of Firsthand digital series and Firsthand Living in Poverty. You know, so Kay, thank you for sharing Jim with us. And WTTW, WFMT, and Chicago OU and Jim, a great deal of gratitude. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day.
Thank you.